Now let's go back to Earth. A strange thing. It would seem that quite recently we have received so much unique information of a sensational nature that it is very, very difficult to impress us with anything. But no. More and more new messages about the mysterious and unknown continue to surprise and attract us. The story that we were told, basically, ordinary and absolutely normal people, by the way, who were not interested in anomalies before, literally astound me. Although our native and familiar signal still appeared in my head, this cannot be happening. It is unreal. What can we do? Our stereotype of perception has also manifested itself. It happened on the night of November 1st to 2nd, 1989, near Plesetsk, Arkhangelsk region. Truck drivers Oleg Kirzhakov and Nikolai Baranchikov were returning home to Moscow from a business trip. It was very dark, and suddenly, around one of the turns, the headlights illuminated a strange, fantastic object. The truck engine suddenly died and the car stopped. Frightened, the drivers sat in silence for a while, watching the strange object. There was a dog in the cab with them. As soon as the car stopped, something strange started happening to the dog.
The dog jumped off, jumped over me, and jumped back. The back of the truck has a sleeper cab. The dog was huddled there on the sleeper cab. After a while Oleg says, "I'll go take a look." I tried to dissuade him at first. I say, "Don't go. We don't know what it is yet." But he did come out.
I wanted to examine it in a better way. When I began to approach the object, I felt some kind of, whether it was a protective field around this ship or my fear. I couldn't figure it out right away. But when I stopped, stood for a moment, took a few more steps, and realized that something was holding me, not letting me go to the object. And then, automatically, I caught myself thinking that it was a flying vehicle. I received a telepathic mental signal, which was duplicated by the flash of the screen in front of my eyes, but at a distance of about an arm's length. And on it, as it is written here, and displayed that they need an open fire. I didn't immediately understand what it was, what they needed. I tried to reach the screen with my hand. But it passed through my hand. Either he was in my mind, or he really was.
So it wasn't a material object?
Yes, I tried to touch it.
I saw this moment, as he did several times with his hands, like this. It was as if he was groping for something in front of him.
Did that surprise you?
Actually, I was surprised.
I thought for a few minutes what kind of fire they needed. Then I decided that they really needed a fire or a source of fire. I turned and walked along the other side of the road, along the side of the truck. The field that was holding me back either moved away or disappeared. I no longer felt it. When I went to the truck, I took matches and a bottle, against icing, freezing. We carry alcohol with us. I took a bottle with alcohol. I closed the truck door and went back to the same place again. I collected the dry leaves that were lying on the roadside, doused them with alcohol and set them on fire. I saw that there was a doorway in this spaceship. It had not been there before. The wall was smooth. And there's a light in the distance. There is no light on the object, but it is light inside. I noticed that something was moving in my direction through this doorway. In a nutshell, inside this spaceship. Then I was really afraid. I began to slowly back away.
Did you see a silhouette?
Yes, like a shadow coming over me.
Well, did he get out of the spaceship?
At the moment when I saw him, no. And when I slowly backed away, stumbled on the side of the road and almost fell, at that moment, when I looked up, this silhouette was already moving away from my fire. He was already walking along the corridor in this spaceship. Then I went slowly to the same place, not immediately, in 2 or 3 steps, and noticed that I no longer found the matchbox there. After standing for a little while, I think, what is it, I wonder? I need to get a closer look. Again, the letters lit up on the screen. I don't remember exactly now, but a positive answer was given. I decided that since I was in no danger, I would go and see what it was. The ship stood on 3 legs. On 2 legs, and the 3rd leg was that he broke 3 large trees, 3 birches. This machine had no stairs, no lifting device, I did not see. And the threshold of this doorway was much higher.
How high was the doorway?
About 2 meters.
2 meters, yes. And what was the width?
About 1.5 meters, probably. I thought, how am I going to get there? From the hull of the spaceship, such a rod moved out. It first went horizontally to the ground, and then into the ground. It was like a railing. I took it and immediately found myself at the threshold of the doorway.
Once inside the mysterious object, Oleg first found himself in a wide, dark corridor, and then, after walking 7 to 8 meters, he found himself at the entrance to a spacious round hall. From it radiated corridors that led to other rooms of the spaceship. In one of the doorways stood a being, about 2 meters tall. It was shrouded in a dark haze, and its contours were gradually changing. Entering the hall, Oleg noticed the racks of devices located along the walls, and the control panel, which moved in a circle. Colored lights glowed on the dashboards, forming various geometric shapes. Then other 2-meter-tall beings appeared in the hall, also shrouded in a dark haze. What are these beings? Who are they? Where did they come from? Questions arose in the head. In response, the dome of the hall began to gradually fade, and a picture of the starry sky appeared on it. One of the stars began to grow larger and burn brighter than the others. Is this the star you came from? Oleg asked mentally. Yes, came the telepathic reply. Is it in our galaxy? Again, a positive response. There was no fear, and Oleg asked the question again.
I asked, is this a base ship or a landing module? They said it was a landing module. Then I asked the purpose of their expedition. They said it was scientific, but they were all transmitting it telepathically through this screen. And then I didn't even read the screen.
Have you already understood telepathically?
Yes, I even thought about it myself several times and didn't say anything. And I got the answer. I asked if they were from the same planet or star, and was told that they were from different planets. I also asked what more expeditions come here, good or bad, for what purpose they visit the Earth. They said there were more good ones. I just wanted to give them my watch. I had a watch on my wrist. They refused and said that they had complete information about the Earth. Basically, they can have information about everyone because even when I took the rod when I entered this object, they called my body temperature. That is, one touch was enough. Apparently, the rod was both an elevator and a probe. I asked them, how is your ship moving? They told me they use electromagnetic fields to get thrust. I didn't ask what kind of thruster they had. I asked what kind of opening it was on the wall, and then the interior of the same ship appeared in it. At first I thought that these were some kind of built-in cameras, and they were filming this hall. But then I noticed that I didn't see myself in the doorway. Then the picture changed, and a slightly different configuration of the hall was visible, but the beings were also the same in the hall. Actually, I could not understand what it is. The image is as three-dimensional, as if there are real beings behind this opening. And then the picture changed again, and our TV news program was shown. At first, there were three beings in the hall, then a fourth appeared, and between them, apparently, I will not call it a conversation, some kind of activity began to appear.
Communication?
Yes, between them. And I realized that something was brewing, and I was still afraid, not so much, but I began to be afraid that nothing would happen. I asked them, you probably need to, but I didn't ask them to fly away, to move somewhere. And I got a positive response. When we parted with them, I asked, could I tell other people what I had seen here? I also received a positive response. Can I see you again? They said, if you are in danger, we will find you within 15 minutes. Quietly, I turned around and walked back to the exit. When I left the object, then turned around, and the doorway was no longer there. And I thought, I should go to the truck as soon as possible. If they leave now, something might happen to me. And again I received a mental answer that there is nothing wrong, that I could be near. And even as a precaution, I read this question from the mental screen. After that, this object, this middle part began to rotate, and the dome.
This part start rotating?
Yes, in one direction. And the dome slowly began to rotate in the other direction. The brighter it started to shine. Yes. At first, a single stripe passed from above with the articulation of the dome of this one. Then these nozzles merged into one hole. And such a spot of light was formed, and its color changed.
That is, the object was not so clearly visible?
Yes, it merged into such a spot of light. Then I heard a crack. It must have been leveling off. He was standing a little obliquely, as I said, leaning on a few trees. Then it swayed and rose silently.
So there was no noise? Like our rockets take off.
Absolutely nothing. No wind, no noise. After that, I noticed that there was another truck standing 100 to 120 meters away, and there was another passenger car behind it. The people who were there, two men and a woman, they immediately ran up to us after this object flew away. And they began to ask, what was it? What was it?
So they also sat in their cars and watched the whole event.
I think they even tried to get out of the cars, but they couldn't come up, because this field, which I couldn't overcome, I think, in the end, it didn't shrink, but expanded. And we ended up inside that field because those people couldn't get close to that spaceship. They asked what it was, but I had a very strong shock. Almost nothing could answer. The only thing that when they asked, is it a UFO? I said yes, probably.